Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a really powerful concept from the ROFA Thursday curriculum called Action Before Readiness, Redefining Failure. We are going to completely dismantle those traditional, frankly, outdated views we all hold about needing to be ready and really challenge the idea that mistakes are somehow final. So let's jump right in.
Let me start by asking you a pretty simple question. Are you waiting until you're ready? It sounds innocent, right? But it's actually a massive trap that so many of us fall into. We constantly trick ourselves into thinking that if we just hold out for the perfect moment, the absolute ideal conditions, or, 100% certainty, then we'll finally take action. But the sources we're looking at today point out a really hard truth. 100% readiness, it's a total illusion. If you wait until you feel fully, absolutely ready to do something, well, you might literally never do anything at all.
One of the session's facilitators, Valerie, absolutely hit the nail on the head with this. She says, don't wait until you think you're ready. Stop chasing ghosts and let life catch up. I just love that phrasing, chasing ghosts. Because when we fixate on perfect conditions, we are literally chasing something that simply isn't real. The core operating principle we have to adopt here is prioritizing action way before certainty. We have to stop trying to force life to be flawless before we actually decide to participate in it.
So what is it that keeps us stuck chasing those ghosts in the first place? Well, often it's what's called a deficit focus. Imagine buying your first house, but it has one single broken window. Deficit thinking means you stand there and stare exclusively at that one broken window. You focus on the hole where the energy is leaking out, and you completely miss the working plumbing, the nice fridge, the entire rest of the house. It's essentially a poverty mindset. To break free, we have to shift to asset thinking. This is all about seeing the masterpiece despite the flaws. It's that ability to get caught in a sudden downpour, realize your groceries are safe, and literally dance in the rain while a kind stranger shares their umbrella with you. That was a real story shared in a session, by the way. It's actively, intentionally focusing on what is not wrong.
Now shifting from deficit to asset thinking definitely takes some practice. Thankfully, the ROFA curriculum really de-jargons this whole process for us. Instead of throwing around clinical terms like cognitive diffusion, they give us a much better tactic, the hot potato. When you recognize a negative, repetitive thought that's just keeping you stuck, you treat it exactly like a physical hot potato. You identify it and you toss it immediately. You do not hold on to it. It's a brilliant, simple, and totally relatable way to stop ourselves from getting paralyzed by overthinking. Okay, so now we shift to the actual engine of learning, led by Chris, and this completely challenges how we usually view the finality of mistakes. Society essentially sells us a counterfeit chain. It goes like this. You make a mistake, you immediately label it a permanent failure, and then you just give up. It's an incredibly toxic worldview. But look at the working chain instead. Loss leads to a lesson, which leads to learning and ultimately growth. A mistake isn't a final endpoint. Loss is just something that happens to you. Failure, on the other hand, is a voluntary agreement you make when you actively decide to stop trying. And this brings us to a major correction of a cliché we've all heard a million times. You know the one. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, actually, scratch that. In the context of resilience, that's completely wrong. A person who stumbles, maybe even relapses, but keeps showing up, they are not insane. Just by showing up again, they are trying something different. Because as long as there's another attempt available, the outcome is still wide open. They haven't failed, they simply haven't found the right lesson yet. A chance always beats no chance.
Looking at the actual architectural mapping of this concept from the source material, it's pretty amazing to see how this works in practice. Notice how mistake and failure are just completely removed from that top path. Loss definitely arrives without your consent, that's a given. But instead of being a dead end, mistakes are revealed to be the required mechanism for growth. You literally cannot get to the growth stage without passing through the learning and change stages. And those are fed directly by the lessons you extract from your losses.
But, there's a catch, and it's a huge one. Right between the loss and the lesson, there is a massive blocker, and that blocker is frustration. It's not just some stage you passively pass through on your way to enlightenment. It acts like a heavy steel vault door. The session refers to it as the frustration box. And here's the thing. While you're locked inside that box, while your frustration is actively running hot, nothing converts to a lesson. The absolute crucial data you need to move forward is completely locked away from you. So how on earth do we unlock that door? Chris shared an amazing sequence using a real-world example of his 10-year-old nephew.
The kid was completely devastated after losing a match at this massive 2,000-person wrestling tournament. To get unblocked, Chris says it starts with dignity first. You go shake your opponent's hand before reacting. Second is privacy. Step away and talk privately, not out in front of the massive crowd. Third, grant permission to be upset. Validate that fire in their belly, let them know it's totally okay to hate losing. And then finally, you reframe.
The way Chris reframed this moment for his nephew was absolutely perfect. He told him, "You didn't lose the tournament. You lost a round." Zooming out like this is incredibly powerful for any of us. It instantly shifts what feels like a devastating final failure into a localized, temporary setback. It yanks you right out of that frustration box and allows you to look at the loss objectively. Suddenly, you can ask, okay, what did we learn here? Maybe we just needed a complex carb like a banana instead of running around burning energy all morning. Just like that, the loss becomes highly useful data.
Now, I want to be clear here. Taking action and learning from loss doesn't mean you just thrash around recklessly. You can put in massive effort, high intensity, sweat and grinding away. But if it's undirected, you're basically vectoring straight into a brick wall. And that only equals more frustration. What we actually need is directed effort. You have to take your very best effort and aim it directly at a specific target. Giving your absolute best is absolutely crucial, for sure. But undirected effort is still a waste. You need that clear direction.
The tech wire paradox illustrates this need to aim your efforts so perfectly. Imagine a computer technician who suspects a faulty wire is slowing down a whole system. Swapping it out would be the fastest, easiest fix, right? But instead, he takes the harder path. He aims his effort at full manual diagnostics. And because he took the time to do that, he uncovers a massive malware infection stealing data, something that Quick Fix would have completely missed. Sometimes the fastest solution hides the real problem. True growth requires directed, deliberate, diagnostic effort.
Now, when you consistently apply this directed effort and actually learn from your losses, people from the outside are probably going to start calling you lucky. But the session dismantles this myth of random success entirely. Luck is simply an equation. It's preparation, which is all your sweat and your time, plus opportunity, which is really just you showing up. Success isn't random at all. It is actively manufactured. By doing the hard work, you place yourself in the exact position to catch the opportunity when it flies by. Never take away the hard work you put in by just calling it luck.
And that brings us to the ultimate accountability filter for your actions. Ask yourself this: did you give it your best effort? If the answer is yes, but I still failed, there is absolutely no shame in that. None. It just means this isn't the right path. It's simply data telling you to aim your effort somewhere else. But if the answer is no, well, that's not a failure either. That is simply the very next change you need to make in your working chain of growth. So, the absolutely crucial point we are left with today is this empowering question. Am I giving this situation my best effort? If you keep asking yourself this and you stop waiting until you feel perfectly ready, you take failure completely off the table. Remember, loss is just what happens to you. Failure is what you agree to. So think about it. Where in your life do you need to stop chasing ghosts, take action before you're ready, and just start?